As we all know, Minecraft is already more than 15 years old, and within that time period, Minecraft has already received over 21 release versions, 9 beta versions, 3 alpha, and if we count snapshots and other unimportant versions, we can probably bring the total number of the available versions to 100 or maybe even more. With no doubt, Minecraft has already received several controversial updates. Either they were made by Notch, like for example the beta 1.8 update where eventually sprinting and hunger system was added, or by the new Mojang after they were acquired by Microsoft. And so today we'll be taking a closer look at only one of them, the first ever release version made by Microsoft, more precisely at the 1.9 Combat and End update. An update that managed to be so controversial it made many people concerned about Minecraft's future, as this update was pretty much the first one made by Microsoft and that directly managed to be so controversial. An update that turned out to be a complete disaster for the Minecraft service and is making many players confused up until this day. So how could a simple mechanic change on paper turn out to be so controversial? The year is 2014. Notch just sold Minecraft for a $2.5 billion deal to Microsoft, which caused a huge impact on Minecraft's future, as Minecraft was now controlled by such a huge company, and the players' first impressions were not good at all. First things first, the 1.9 update was released 1.5 years after the release of the 1.8 update, which is even terrible by today's standards and especially by the standards back then, as updates used to be released in under a year, but eventually the 1.9 update was released by the end of February of 2016, and this is where it all began. Let me explain why I named this chapter like this. Take a look at this Google Trends graph. This is the point where the Combat update was released, February of 2016. Shortly after releasing this update, Minecraft's long-standing popularity almost immediately fell down and was at the bottom for 2.5 years. Just because an update changed a recognizable mechanic, Minecraft wasn't as popular as before for a long time. You see, Minecraft was at its peak of popularity from mid-2012 to beginning of 2016, and making such a controversial and big change into a game mechanic could significantly affect the popularity of the game, as Minecraft was very well known for its simplicity and, most importantly, recognizable mechanics, and with no doubt Minecraft's popularity in general simply fell down. In fact, recognizability remains as a problem even up until this day, as the Bedrock Edition, for example, still sticks to the old combat system, making it confusing for the Bedrock Edition players, for example, when they try to play on the Java Edition for the first time. Not to mention that such a change significantly impacted not only the simplicity of the game, but also another massive aspect that people mostly complained about after Mojang, aka Microsoft, started developing massive updates for the game after 1.13. Mojang is well known nowadays for making huge updates. At least they were known for that. The point is that before the Combat update, Minecraft used to have pretty simple updates that didn't affect gameplay by much like the Combat update. And they didn't make Minecraft much more complex or unbalanced, and the Combat update being the first ever major release made by Microsoft for the Java Edition, not only did it make many players worried about Minecraft's future as this update was so controversial, but it also did make Minecraft's gameplay much more unbalanced. Adding this new combat system alongside a little updated end dimension, but unbalanced gameplay became so controversial because of the servers in the first place. Hypixel is the perfect example of it. Hypixel used to update the game version regularly, removing the old ones from the supported versions, and everything was going good until eventually the 1.9 update was released, which changed the beloved and recognizable combat system, which was so essential for the PvP servers in the first place. And so Hypixel and other famous PvP servers had no other choice but to stick with the old PvP system, equally staying at the old version 1.8, which is eventually more than 10 years old, and that is the problem that we eventually see on servers like Hypixel up until this day. Microsoft made such a controversial update that is eventually affecting servers' gameplay nowadays, since players need to choose either they want to stay on the latest classic PvP version 1.8.9 or play on the version 1.9 and above. But the main problem is that this change alone also affects affects the server gameplay on the modern versions of Minecraft, simply because if we try to build with blocks that were added in the version 1.9 and above in the Hypixels build battle, for example, the game won't let us simply build with it. That is also the reason why we simply can't see blocks that were made in the versions 1.9 and above on Hypixel, but removing the version 1.8 from the servers is not an option as well, simply because Hypixel and other servers with no doubt will see a big decline in the player base as the majority of people still play on this 10-year-old version. The combat update is a good and equally bad update. On the one hand, this update provided to us more realistic combat system, and it eventually marked a huge difference between the Java and Bedrock edition. But on the other hand, while many people nowadays are used to this new combat system, many others are not and still play on 1.8, forcing servers like Hypixel still support this old version and not letting players, for example, build with blocks from the version 1.9 simply because the majority of people still play in such an old version. Such a change in gameplay did also affect Minecraft's popularity in general, seemingly because it was Microsoft's first major release for the Minecraft Java edition. They wanted to test out what is going to work and what not, but the first impression didn't go quite well, eventually giving us one of the most, if not the most controversial update of all time that eventually made Minecraft for the first time very unbalanced, which, as I mentioned earlier, turned out to be very controversial for the PvP service that left and is even letting many players confused up until this day, and that seemingly made Minecraft's long-standing popularity fall down back then. This is how the combat update, being the first ever major release made by Mojang acquired by Microsoft, turned out to be the most controversial update for Minecraft and Minecraft's future, consequences of which we still see up until this day. Subscribe.